Hello my loves, today we're going to talk about plantar fasciitis and some tips and tricks and some yoga poses that you can use to relieve some of your tension from plantar fasciitis. So for those of you that don't know, plantar fasciitis is the inflammation of the muscles and the tendons on the bottom of your foot. There's a fan-like muscle, the plantar muscle, that comes all the way from the heel and all the way up into the ball of your foot. Now, it can be extremely painful, especially first thing in the morning, or if you've been seated for a while and not moving around and then you go to get up and move, is when I found, for me, in my experience, that it was the worst. So yes, I have personally experienced this, and what I want to share with you today are some tips and tricks that I found to help my plantar fasciitis. I am not a doctor, so please go get checked out and make sure that this is something you're actually dealing with and that there is not something else going on in your body. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is massage. Now you can get in there with your hands, your thumbs, your fingers, and just kind of going along the bottom of your foot here with your hands. Now you may feel, if you have plantar fasciitis, that there are some lumpy bumps in there. I always think of them like little peas. Your goal is to kind of flatten your peas here. Now, if you do find any, you may want to go over that spot. It may be tender, so be gentle with yourself. And that is one way that you can massage your feet. Now, the other way that you can massage your feet is by using a tennis ball. Now, I have a video all about that, which I will link here, which you can kind of follow along and massage your feet that way. That works great seated or standing. I'm going to show you it here standing. So you'll take your ball, place it onto the floor, make sure that it's on a non-slip surface, so either a mat, a blanket, or a carpet. You'll take your foot onto the ball and just roll your foot across the ball. Again, I have a full follow along video on doing that ball massage, and I'll link that in the description. Now, the other thing that you can do to release some of that tension and stress and pain on the bottom of your foot is to use ice. You can use ice and massage together by freezing a water bottle. I recommend freezing one of the little ones. Again, you may want to be a little gentle with yourself, so I'm going to show you the variation that you can use here. Just lying and just roll the foot back and forth. You can do this seated in a chair, you just have this on the floor. You could do it lying back, or you could do it standing. Now, I like the smaller water bottles because they have the curves all the way along them, which really help get into the curvatures of your feet. If you feel that this is too much, it's too cold, it's too much of a shock, then you can place a blanket or a towel over the bottle and just get a little less, or place it in the fridge rather than the freezer. But this is the one thing that really helped the pain in my plantar fasciitis, using the frozen water bottle. So the other thing that's going to help your plantar fasciitis is to stretch the muscles along the bottom of your foot. So the one yoga pose that I really like for this is Vajrasana. That's your Thunderbolt pose, where you tuck the toes under and you sit back as much as you can onto your heels. Now, this might be just where you get, this might be enough of a stretch for the bottom of your foot. You don't have to come all the way up. This, when you have plantar fasciitis, can be extremely painful. So please go with whatever your body is telling you. If it's telling you to stay here and that this is your limit, this is your limit. Do not push past the pain. The pain is there for a reason. So a gentler way to stretch your plantar is to just sit, comfortable position, one leg extended, take a strap around the ball of your foot, so you're looking more towards the top, towards the toes, and then draw your toes back towards your head. So you're pulling your toes towards your head here. And this is a good way to notice, where are you feeling this? So right now, I'm not feeling it in my plantar at the bottom of my foot. I'm feeling this in my calf and my hamstring. So that's telling me that maybe I'm getting referred pain from tight calves and tight hamstrings. Notice what's happening for you. So if you are finding that you're getting some referred pain in the calf especially, maybe into the upper or lower calf, then another tip is to stretch out your calves. Stretch out your soleus. Now you can do this on a step, which is quite easy, but I'm going to show you how to do that using yoga blocks here. So I've set up my yoga blocks, and I'm going to use a wall for some support. So I'm going to have one hand on the wall. I'm going to come up and stand on my yoga blocks. This could be a step, whatever you have nearby. The ball of the foot is going to come to the edge, and I'm going to tip my heel off that bottom. And I get a lovely stretch into my calf here. The other knee can bend, and just feel that the heel is drawing down towards the floor. So the other ways that you can kind of stretch out your calves are the traditional kind of yoga poses here. Maybe that's down dog. And working on that little pedal, maybe you have one knee bent and one leg lengthened, so you can get that heel on the straight leg towards the floor and work through the calf. Giving yourself some time in that stretch. Another yoga pose would be Warrior One. Now, as you think about that Warrior One, maybe you have a chair for support here. You lift the back heel and send it towards the back of your mat so that both feet are pointing forward. Now, as we do this, we feel it in the calf. Typically, we feel this more in the upper portion of your calf. If you want to feel it in the lower portion, maybe you step the foot in a little bit and bend the knee. That'll send it more into the soleus, into the lower portion of your leg. Again, maybe you're holding on to a wall or something for support. Now, the other thing that you can do is use your blocks to stretch your calf. And I like to use them this way. So have them against the wall. You're going to be using a wall for support here. You want them secure against something. This is not a freestanding exercise. One low and then one at an angle here. Set them up. Maybe you have a little support for your heel. You take the ball of the foot so that you're at a nice angle. Other foot forward and just lean the hips forward. That could give you a nice stretch in the plantar and your calf. And again here, you can bend the knee and send it a little more into the soleus. If this feels too tricky, there's a tool for that. And the tool is a foot rocker. As you can see, there's two portions to this. There's a short portion and a longer portion. That tells you that your heel goes into the shorter one, the ball of the foot goes onto the longer one. Ball of the foot, heel. Now you can rock back. This will be nice and gentle. You might feel that this is enough for you. If this is enough for you, then you stay here. Now the ideal thing here is you get to choose the angle of your ankle. I've got quite a lot of mobility in my ankle. If that feels good, walk the other foot forward, try it again. Have the hips further forward. If that feels good, try it again. Walk the other foot forward. So this gives you the ability to kind of notice the difference that you have between right and left, especially if you only have plantar fasciitis in one side. Do you have more mobility in one ankle compared to the other? Now, I love this for after a run or a hike because it just is a quick stretch. If I don't have a step nearby, which I generally don't, we don't have stairs, but it's a great way to stretch your calves and your plantar. Nice and quick, super easy. You can leave it by the door, quick stretch when you come back. So the other thing that I want to mention is that once your plantar starts to recover, what you need to start doing is exercises for your plantar muscles. And that means exercising your feet, which we tend to lose the ability as we age to move all of the kind of little muscles of our feet. So things that we need to think about in moving our feet is, can you lift just the big toe away from the floor? Take some of this, some brain power, and then can you put the big toe down and lift the other toes? Now I like to think of this as kind of playing the piano, and just notice, as you do it, can you do one easier than the other? And then can you kind of create a wave? So coming down and coming up, one toe at a time. Now it's harder for me to come down through the wave and easier to come up. So that's a great way to get some mobility into your toes, into the bottom of your feet, and you will feel that in your plantar. Easier when you're seated, it's a lot harder when you're standing. And standing, I prefer to do one at a time because it just feels like I'm not going to lose my balance as much. All right, the second exercise that I'm going to suggest that you start doing for your plantar, using a very, very expensive piece of equipment called a tissue. So you take your tissue in front, you can come into seated, you can do this standing, you can do it in chair. Take the tissue to your ball of your foot and scrunch your tissue up. But it's a great way of working the plantar muscle underneath your foot. You're getting a nice arch there through the bottom of your foot. All right, so the other thing that I want to talk about is that even if you have plantar fasciitis now, rather than thinking about all the tips that I've just given you to kind of relieve that tension, think about what is causing that pain in the first place. So we've just thrown band-aids on it. What I want you to think about is, what did you do what was the instigator, if you like, of causing that pain? Now, when I got plantar fasciitis was when I was training for a half marathon, and for me, it was my shoes. So if you are a runner or a hiker or a walker, a cyclist, whatever it is that you are doing for your activity, are you wearing shoes that are supporting your feet? So when I was running, I went and got checked out at the doctor, and he recommended that I go to a specific shoe place and get myself fitted for proper running shoes, and I did just that. I got some new shoes for running, and I have since only run in Brooks. These are my go-to for running, and I have a pair that are solely for running. That is their one purpose. I don't walk in these shoes, I just run in them. The other thing that you can try is some orthotics, some inserts for your shoes. That may help also, depending on your feet. But definitely, maybe try some new shoes. So I want you to think also about what else could be causing your plantar fasciitis. If it's not your shoes, what else are you doing that's causing this pain? And it could be something that you're doing, like maybe you're wearing high heels a lot. And no, it doesn't have to be stilettos. It could just be something that's causing a lift of your heel. You're doing a lot of walking and shortening that calf muscle, because tight calves, as we've already mentioned, can cause some plantar fasciitis. Is that happening for you? Other things to look at are your ankle mobility. How much mobility do you have in your ankle here? Thinking about that a lot of the time as well, for me, when mine flares up still, is when I sit a lot like this, because I'm shortening through my calves, and my calves get very tight, which leads to pain in my plantar. For me, I know that this is my trigger because this is comfortable for me to sit. Instead, I try and sit more here and get a little more length in my calf and a little more length in my plantar. Or I'll tip it into Vajrasana. All right, my loves, I hope that helped give you some tips and tricks onto how to get some relief from your plantar fasciitis. Just my experience, not medical advice. If you'd like to see some yoga practice kind of based around calves, plantar fasciitis and that kind of thing, let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, then give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And remember, my loves, that karma is only a bitch if you are. So be nice, be kind, and be the change that you want to see in the world.